welcome back. All right, well, to start off today, we are going to multiply some fractions. And remember, when we multiply fractions, we multiply straight across. Notice these are all fractions and ready to go. What I really wanted to look at was the diagonals, because remember, when we're multiplying fractions, we can also simplify before we multiply by cross-canceling. So I'm going to start here with the 9 and 15. Did you notice that 9 and 15 have a common factor of 3? When I divide 9 by 3, I get 3. When I divide 15 by 3, I get 5. Let's look at this diagonal here. 4 and 16 share a common factor of 2 and 4. I'm going to divide 4 by 4 and get 1. And I'm going to multiply or divide 16 by 4 and get 4. So now notice when I multiply straight across, I'm multiplying 1 times 5 equals 5, and 3 times 4 equals 12. And this is just simplifying before I multiply. Let's do it over here too. First, I'm going to start with the 7 and 14. Yes, their common factor is 7. 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. And what's the common factor between 5 and 25? Good, 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 25 divided by 5 is 5. Notice how nicely this goes when I do 1 times 2 is 2, and 1 times 5 is 5. So again, I can simplify before I multiply. All right. So let's take a look at our learning target today. So our learning target today is we will calculate, the percent, and I'm going to use the percent sign, of a number. And that means sometimes, and this will make more sense when we get there, we're going to find the part, we'll find the whole amount, or we'll find the percent, because those are the three pieces in a percent problem. So let's start out with a question first, and let's think about how we could attack a problem like this. So my first question would be, what is, and you can do mental math here, what is 50% of 40? What is 50% of 40? So that's 20, right? We know that because 50% means half, and half of 40 is 20. So one thing that we often do that helps us do mental math, shortcuts if you will, is use something called benchmarks. So let's look again at the number 40. Benchmarks are amounts that we can easily calculate using mental math, like this. 100% of 40 is, well, 100% means all, everything, the whole thing, right? So 100% of 40 is just 40, because if I had $40 and I gave 100% of it to somebody else, I would be giving them all $40. 50% is another one that we can do easily. We know that 50% of 40 is 20, right? Because 50 is half of 100 and 20 is half of 40. We can also find 25 pretty easily, just like we found the 50. So we know that 25% of 40, right, is, notice here, 25% is half of 50%. Since 20 is 50%, that means that 10, and I'm going to put an equal sign here because is and equals are the same, that means 25% of 40 equals 10. Some other fun amounts to find are 10%. I know that 10% of 40 equals, well, let's think about this. If I have 100 and I break that into 10 equal pieces, I get 10. So I did 100 divided by 10 to get 10. 40 divided by 10 is 4. So that means 10% of 40 is 4. What about 5%? I like 5% because 5% is half of 10%. So 5% of 40 equals, well, let's see, 5 is half of 10. What's half of 4? 2. Now, one that I want to remind you here is 1% of 40, okay? Another way to find percents like 10 and 1 is that 10% you pull the decimal back once. For 1% you pull the decimal back 2 places, right? Because you're taking away 2 zeros. And so that would make this 0.4 or 4/10. All right. Now these are called benchmarks. Okay. They are numbers that we can easily calculate in our brain. We can use benchmarks to find other percents, okay, of 40. So let's try this. Here's another couple examples, okay? What is 35% of 40? So notice 40 is the whole amount, right? Because it's 100%. What is, I'm looking at what part of 40 35% is, right? So I'm going to think about all of these benchmarks that I had above. So let's see. I can find 35% by adding 25% and 10%. Watch how this works. 25% equals, boom, 10. 10% equals 4. If I add those together, I get 35% equals 14. Okay, and that means, okay, that means that 14 is 35% of 40. Okay, now what's really cool about this is 14 is, so this right here is the part, this is the percent, this will come in handy in a little bit, and this is the whole amount, okay? The part, 14 is, percent that I'm interested in, 35%, and whole amount of 40. Pretty cool? Let's do another example. Let's do what is, how about 70% of 40? So be thinking about how you can find 70%. Okay, I can use 50% and 2 10%. I could start with 100% and subtract 3 10%, or I could start with 100%, subtract 25%, and then subtract 5%. I've got a lot of ways that I can do this. So I'm going to start with 50% and add 20%. So 50% equals, right here, 20. And then I'm going to do 10%, which equals 4. That comes from right there. And 10%, which equals 4. And when I add those together, I get 70%. Did you see how 50 plus 10 plus 10 is 70%? Equals 28. And that means that 28 is 70% of 40. And that would make sense because 70% is more than 50%. And 28 is more than 50% of 40. So that sounds pretty reasonable. And again, 28 is, this word is a key word that we're going to use here in just a second, which means I'm dealing with the part of my problem. When I have a percent sign attached to a number, that means it's a percent. And when I see of 40, that means I'm dealing with the whole part of my problem. Here, 40 is the whole number, 28 is the part of 40, and 70 is which percent. Let's do one more. I'm going to try to sneak this one in. Let's do a little bit harder one here. Let's do what is, how about 46% of 40? So maybe you're thinking in your head that 46 is really close to 50%. So my number should be really close to 50%, which was 20, but maybe just a little bit less. And as a matter of fact, you could even use benchmark amounts and start with 50% and subtract 4 of those if you wanted to. let's see, I'm going to do 10%. Let's see, I'm going to do 10% 4 times. So I'm going to have to squeeze these in here. 10% equals 4. 10% equals 4. Now, if I'm going to do 46, I need 4 of these. 10% equals 4. 10% equals 4. Some of you might have said, well, if I have 4 of those, that's 40%, and 4 times 4 is 16. You can totally do that, okay? Then I need 5%, which is 2, and I need 1%, which is 4/10, okay? Now, when I add those all together, I have 16, 17, 18, and 4/10. And when I add these all together, I get 46%. So that means that 46, 18 and 4/10 is 46% of 40. Okay, and just identifying the pieces again, 18 and 4/10 is a key action word that says, hey, this is a part of your math. It's not the whole amount, this is a part. 46 is the percent because it has that symbol. Okay, it's kind of a dead giveaway there. And then of 40 means this is your whole amount that you started with, okay? And that's going to allow us to do this algebraically. So now what I'm going to show you is another way to do how to calculate the percent of a number, okay? Using tables and using a proportion. Now keep in mind, this only works when I'm trying to find the part, okay? When I know that something is 25% off and I want to know what I'm saving. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to create kind of a table here, okay? And all I'm going to start with, sorry, I'm doing a very good job there. All I'm going to start with here is I'm going to tell you something that's very cool. When we're dealing with percent of a number, okay, we have a very, very cool, it's kind of like an algorithm. It's a very cool rule that we can use to solve these problems anytime. And what we say is this. And I'm going to write it a little bit bigger. Percent of 100 equals is over of. Okay, and we're going to do it this way. We can also write it the other way. A lot of people like to write is over of equals percent of 100, okay? It doesn't matter as long as we're talking about this part here being the part like we talked about in our last math, and this part being the whole amount. And these keywords is and of are going to help us determine where to place our numbers so that we can solve some math, okay? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to draw a line across like this. And then I want you to draw a line straight down, close to the center. Okay? And I want to show you a table, how to solve these math problems, and I want to show you the proportion. Okay, so this is going to be more algebraic, and I'm going to show you a couple different things. Now, we already looked at how to find the part, but that's what we're going to continue to do. We're going to find the part, that's is. What happens if I don't know what the total was? What happens if I don't know what the percent is? Those are the things that we're going to do now. So write this down here. What is 36% of 180? Okay, now we're going to break it down because we really want to make sure we know. What is a question mark, right? And its worth is. That means I don't know the part. I do know the percent because the percent sign has a number. And this says of 180. Of is the whole amount, so I have that. Okay, so let's create a table. We're going to put the percent on the top, and we'll put the number on the bottom. Now, always start with what you, I always start with whatever 100% is, whether I know it or not. So I know that 100% is the whole amount because 100% of 180 is 180. Okay? But I'm not interested in 100%. I'm interested in 36%, right? Now, trying to figure out how to get from 100 to 36. Some of you might know that if you divide, you can multiply. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little hint that says, okay, find the unit percent. Now it's going to be up to you on your homework to figure out, are we looking for the part, like this problem? Are we looking for the percent, like some of the problems we'll do soon? Or am I looking for the whole, okay? So when I do that, I'm going to create another part of my table, and I'm going to look for 1%. Because look, I want the top row here to be nice and full. And I know that to get to 100, or from 100 to 1, I have to divide by 100. And 180 divided by 100 is 1 8/10. Now that I know what that is, right, now I can go back this way and multiply by 36. And I can multiply 1.8 times 36, and that's going to give me the amount that I'm interested in, right? Which is 64 8/10. Okay? So this is one way that you can do this. Find the unit percent, just like the unit price, just like the unit rate. Okay? Another way you can do this is by using this proportion. Okay? And I always start by just writing percent over 100 equals is over of. Now I'm going to write it backwards on the next one so that we can kind of see that you could write it either way. I'm going to populate the things that I know. I know that the percent is 36. So I know 36 over 100 equals is the question mark. So on my second proportion, I don't have anything yet. You know, you could put a box there or something like, hey, this is what I'm looking for. And then the whole amount that I have of is 180. Okay. There are two ways to do this. Okay. The first way, again, is to do this. Find the unit percent. So I say, what if instead of knowing 100%, I wanted to know what 1% of that was. So I'm going to go all the way down here, and I'm going to find this as 1, okay? So I'm going to divide by 100, and 36 divided by 100 is 36 tenths. Once I know that, do you see how I can just multiply quickly by 180? Okay, and when I do that, I'm going to get the 64 8/10. Now I want to show you another way that skips this part. Okay, now this is only if you are ready for this. Okay, this is kind of a shortcut, but remember how we had 36 over 100 equals some number over 180, and I wanted to know what I needed to multiply 36 by. I want to multiply by some number. Well, it's the same thing that I'm going to multiply 100 by to get to 180. Now the trick is, if I'm multiplying this way, then I'm dividing this way because it's an inverse operation, and I'm going to do 180 divided by 100, and then I'm going to multiply that, and this gets you 1.8. And then when you do this, this is called the circle of life. If I want to multiply one way, I can divide the other way, and I'm going to get the same thing. Okay, and so my answer is 64 8/10 is 36% of 180. Okay, so that's a lot. And this right here, this is what we call, I'm going to write it over here, finding the part. Okay, finding the part. Now we're going to move down here on our table just a bit. Okay, and this time we're going to answer a different type of question. Okay, we're going to say 15 is 25% of what? Okay, and again, when I break this up, 15 is, okay, 15 is, I have the part, 25%, I've got the percent. What I don't have is the whole amount. I don't know what I started with. I don't know what I'm finding 25% of what, right? So we're going to do it with the table, and we'll do a proportion. Okay, with the table, again, we're going to put our percent on the top and our number on the bottom. Now, I always start with 100%, but here's the thing. I don't know what 100% is yet. I only know that 25% is 15. So I'm going to leave this one blank because this is what I'm looking for. And I know that 25% is 15. Okay, so again, I've got 100 and I've got 25. Since I have the numbers on the top, I'm going to find the 1 on the top here. Okay, I'm going to find this 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, to get from 25 to 1, you have to divide by 25. So do the same thing here and divide 15 by 25. Okay. When you divide 15 by 25, you're going to get 6/10. Now look how easy that is to say, oh, well then it's really easy for me to go back to 100 because 1 times 100 equals 100. And then I can put this in my calculator and 60 equals 6/10 times 100. Okay? If I want to do this with a proportion, I could sure do that. Is over, look, I'm going to write it a little bit different this time, is over of equals percent over 100. Okay? I do know the is part, that's 15 over, I don't know yet, equals, well, I know it's 25% of 100. Okay? So again, since I have the two numerators, I can easily find 1. I want to use a different color here. Let's try this green here. I can easily find 1 by dividing both 25 and 100 by, and remember, I'm going from 25 to 1, so I have to divide by 25. And 100 divided by 25 is 4. Okay? Then I can say, all I've really done is simplify this fraction. Did you see that? I kind of simplified it. I'm going to take 1, and I got to get all the way to 15. What do I multiply 1 by to get to 15? Times 15. And 4 times 15 is 60. Okay, so that means 60 is 25%. Whoops, 15. Ooh, that was really weird. 15 is 25% of 60 because that's what I was asking. Okay, now I'm going to call this finding the whole. So you're going to have to figure out, am I finding the part, the whole amount, or the percent when you're working on your assignment, okay? This is finding the whole. When I'm looking for the whole amount, when I'm looking for the of, I'm going to use this strategy, okay? One of these. We've got one more strategy hanging there, okay? And we're going to do another table, but this is the end. Okay, so we've got our table over here. And we've got our proportion over here. And then I'm going to show you a super shortcut to this one. Okay, you guys are going to love this. Okay, so 30 is what percent of 120? 30 is what percent of 120? So 30 is, okay, remember this is that part. What percent? Now I don't know what the percent is, but I know that the whole amount is 120. So if I were to create a table, right, percent, number, I know that 100% of 120 is 120. I want to know 30, right? What's really nice about this is I could find 1, but I know that I can divide 120 by 4 to get 30. Okay, that's one shortcut. Or I can say, hey, I've got all these numbers down here. I could find 1 by dividing by 120. Okay, and I could do 100. Okay, divided by 120. Go ahead and put that in your calculator and tell me what you get. What am I doing? And you get roughly this, right? Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I can now multiply by 30. Okay. So I want to multiply by 30. So I'm going to take that number that I just had, that 0.83, and I'm going to multiply it by 30. Okay. And I'm going to get 24.9999 repeating, so I'm going to call that 25. Okay, so that's kind of weird there because this is repeating decimal. I don't know if you guys could see that when I put that in there. Okay, here's another way to do it as a proportion. So remember, is over of equals percent over 100. So I'm going to do my is number, which is 30. So 30 over 120 equals the percent that I don't know over 100. Okay, so again, I've got that trick where I can say I can find the 1 down here by dividing by 120. I know that I want to multiply this way, so I can do 100 divided by 120 and then multiply that by 30, and that's going to give me that 25%. Okay, now I want to teach you a super shortcut. Okay, this is a super shortcut. And it only works when we're finding the percent, okay? I've got my is over of right here is 30 over 120. Remember earlier in the week on Monday we watched the video on how to convert fractions to decimals and percents? You can convert this to a decimal and a percent by dividing the numerator by the denominator. Okay, so you can divide the numerator by the denominator. Okay, and then you can skip all of this, right? Because 30 divided by 120 or 3 divided by 12 gives you 0.25 when I put it in my calculator, and then I can multiply that by 100 to get 25%. This is the way that I would do it if I am, and let's remember, finding the percent. Okay, so when you're finding the percent, you can use the table, you can use the proportion, or you can use this shortcut and just divide the numerator by the denominator of this. Okay, long video, hang in there. This was a really big concept. Let your teachers know if you have any questions. Have a wonderful day.